Hi, welcome to this week's YouTube video for Workwoman. I'd like to hit some highlights this week related to questions that I don't think are discussed as often as they need to be when it comes to items to address during interviewing, questions to ask during interviewing. A lot of information out there and available related to interview questions, but these are just some I found really critical over the years and maybe aren't talked about quite as much. So I'm going to go through the list pretty quick. If you have any questions at all, please just put a comment in and I can elaborate or respond and answer some more questions on any of these. How does the organization you're interviewing with address intake and prioritization? This might be a very mature process in the organization. It might be a less mature process that may create some challenges in the work you do or the teams that you are working with or lead. Number two, is there a budget for continuing education or ongoing certification courses you would like to take, or just growing your skills and learning? Sometimes there is a budget, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's a lump sum budget provided to a team or a division to be allocated at the discretion of the leaders, but very important. Similar process and timeline across the organization for strategy and planning is a good question to ask. Or is the process for strategy and planning really left up to teams or divisions, domains to address as they would like, as they feel appropriate? Do timelines for strategy and planning align across the organization and maybe feed into budget work? What are the goals for this role? In the first month, the first 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, really good to ask about that. Make sure you're very clear on what the expectations are for those that you will work with or report to. Are there any additional roles approved that will be working closely or report to the position for which you're interviewing? Are those roles budgeted for, or are they just kind of on a wish list? Those are two very different things. So make sure you ask that question for roles that will be working closely with you should you get the job, or will be working within your team, or maybe in a role adjacent to the team with which you'll be working. Have there been any recent reorganizations or restructures within the company for which you're interviewing? Those can really have an impact on the morale of the folks within the organization that you're stepping into. There may be some things going on that will impact you as you come in. So really understanding if there have been any recent reorganizations or restructures is critical. If this is a backfill role, understanding what some of the bigger challenges were with your predecessor. If that person is still within the organization and maybe is retiring, the opportunity to talk with them. They may be part of the interview process, they may not be, but definitely understanding what their experience was in the role and what their successes were, what their challenges were. Another question. What are the expectations around working hours? What are the norms within the team with which you're going to be working, within the peer group that you're going to be working with? I think asking that question during interview process really gives you awareness stepping in and can help prevent some pain down the road related to unmet expectations or what have you. You want to make sure that if they're expecting 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week or more, that whatever they're looking for aligns with what you can do and what you are able to do. Bonus structure. It's a big one that people certainly ask about or talk about during interviews, but some key questions that I think you really need to ask. How long has the bonus structure been in place? Have there been any recent changes to the bonus structure? What's the payout history of the bonus structure? I found some companies are very willing to talk about these things, other companies not so much. The transparency is something I really appreciate. What is the bonus based on? Is it based on your individual performance, or is it based on the performance of the company across various categories? When is the role eligible? You might be eligible on a prorated basis for the number of months you've worked during the calendar year that you were hired. You may not be eligible till the first of the next year. You may not be eligible until you've completed 12 months. So it can really vary. So ask that for sure. Another question related to PTO. First off, there's no such thing as unlimited PTO. Doesn't exist, even if they say that's what they do. There's no such thing. It is tracked, it's monitored, it has to be approved by management. But my suggestion is to definitely ask if they have blackout periods for PTO, when PTO can be taken or not. It may be something they do regularly. It may be something they don't do at all. Can be a sign of prioritization and timeline challenges with programs and projects and product deliverables. So find out that. Definitely ask about any direct reports, if you would have any direct reports, performance histories, strengths, career tracks, any performance improvement plans that are in place. Another question, is there any admin support for the role for which you're interviewing? Admin support can be something that's really helpful when it comes to managing calendars and pulling together documentation and administrative tasks and preparing for presentations and all that good stuff. So travel. If you travel or will be traveling for the role, definitely ask if you own the travel program points or if the company owns the travel program points. I've worked in both situations and really good to know up front. If you're going to be traveling, really nice to own and earn free tickets and free hotel points and all that good stuff. Ask what meetings specifically this role will own. It might be a situation where the role for which you're interviewing owns the enterprise risk management and review monthly meeting, or maybe this role owns the monthly divisional leadership meeting. Really good to know what you're stepping into as far as those responsibilities. I think another really good question is, tell me about your annual budget planning process. What does that look like? Some companies have a very mature, defined process in place for annual budget planning. Some do it kind of iteratively, quarterly, like a bigger lift annually and then a quarterly revisit. But really good to know what that annual budget planning looks like, or quarterly budget management process looks like. I hope this was really helpful. I hope it focused on some things that you don't hear quite as much about with interview questions, but just some things that I have found super helpful. Please comment if you have anything you want to ask about or share, and subscribe if you like this video. And thank you very much. Have a great weekend.